Last Friday, when I woke up about 5:45, I checked the news and I read that the House of Representatives had passed a $1.2 trillion spending bill. Okay, great, I thought as I sipped my coffee. That keeps the government functioning for the time being. But really, what was in this bill? What was included in this unfathomable amount of money? These 435 men and women voted on a document that likely had never been printed out in full. It contained thousands of specific codicils and details, laying out various arcane spending priorities for this huge country that we have. I don't tell this story to either brag about being up at 5:45. You guys might not think that's a brag. Or to make fun of the budget process, though I do want to make fun of the budget process. That's very valid. But I want to point out how much better off we would be if this process were perhaps just like a little bit easier to understand. After all, we're all contributing to this $1.2 trillion. Taxes are due April 15th, by the way. Just, talk to your parents. So we deserve to have some transparency from our leaders. And I say this by way of introduction to this Torah portion. I've spoken at length over the past couple of months about how we can use Torah as a way to interrogate our own conceptions of leadership. We've talked about some good examples of leadership in the Torah. We've talked about some bad examples. Of course, that's to be expected. People are fallible. But this week, this Parashat leads us back. The pendulum has swung back to examples that maybe we should emulate. And it all starts in this second Parashat of the book of Leviticus with the priests, Aaron and his sons, who are getting ready to assume their duties at the tabernacle. So Moses assembles the Israelites at the entrance to the Mishkan. There's a midrash about this, that this entrance is clearly not big enough for all of the Israelites, but it, in the logic and splendor of the Torah, expands to fit everybody. And then the Torah spends the next 30 verses talking about the ways in which Moses, in full view of the entire Israelite population, prepares the priests. Everybody watches as he anoints them with oil. They watch Moses explain and demonstrate sacrifices. They hear the words and they see the clothes that the priests are wearing. This is followed by a 7-day period where the priests observe their period of ordination outside the Mishkan, this final stage before they are officially ready to assume their roles. Intentional or not, Moses and Adonai are here in this Parashat, providing for the people, for us, a lesson in how government could operate with radical transparency. These religious leaders who are going to intercede with Adonai on behalf of the Israelites are not shrouded in mystery. They're not dressed in clothes no one can imagine, doing who knows what with the sacrifices brought forward. But no, the entire community has been brought forward to watch, to learn, to understand exactly what this process entails. That's one lesson about leadership that I want us to take from this week, but it's not the only one. There's a second, and it's a little bit more obscure, so I want to dive into it a little bit. I say by way of preface that this is an example in which the Torah understands people, it understands our character perhaps better than we understand ourselves. I've already said that this Parashat, or maybe I didn't, but this Parashat is Parashat Tzav, which is the imperative form of the verb to command. Normally, it is Adonai doing the commanding. That is the sort of traditionally accepted way that that verb is used in the Torah. But here we have an interesting thing. Adonai tells Moses to command his brother and his nephews regarding the burnt offering. Rashi points out this is an odd verb choice, but it should show us that rather than ignoring it or writing off as perhaps a mistake of the millennia of copying, that something more interesting is happening. In this case, it involves the burnt offering. Now, we're not going to get into what all the different offerings are for or what they're supposed to represent, but I want you to know that the burnt offering, which is the instance in which Moses is supposed to command Aaron to be more vigilant, is the only type of offering for which the priests did not have a literal stake. They received portions of the flour and the oil and the other meat that were brought for the guilt offering or the sin offering. But for the burnt offering, it's all burnt out. They get nothing. Not that they should get something for everything. But the Hasidic Rabbi Tversky, argues that this verb, this command form of the verb command, reiterates that priests in the sight of everybody should be even more vigilant that they are adhering to the rules of sacrifices, following the rules. They are governing, they are interceding with Adonai correctly, even when they do not have anything to gain themselves. And so as I close, I want to offer tonight this idea of transparency. I don't mean that all personal conversations that the members of our government have or that we have with each other should be made public. There's reasons that things are private, but these decisions should be made in the light of day. We should understand what's in it. I hesitate to make this exact comparison because I don't think it works all the way. But a few weeks back, I guess before spring break, we talked about the golden calf and how that represented a failure of leadership of a number of different people and, of course, of Adonai. One might argue that present active leadership might have forestalled some of the issues we faced when we talked about the golden calf. And so as we move forward into another Shabbos weekend, I'll be thinking about how I here as a leader can be more open and transparent in the way that I lead. I hope you do too. Shabbat Shalom.